Hi guys, and welcome to Section 5, Chapter 2 of the Pre-Algebra program. And in this section, we will be dividing integers, which only seems reasonable, right? We've added, subtracted, we've multiplied. Now, of course, we are going to work on dividing. So in this section, we will, of course, divide integers. We will evaluate expressions again, and we are going to work on a couple of story problems. You are not allowed to freak out. We've not worked on story problems really yet, but it's something that we need to start working into the program. And this is a perfect example of combining several things that we have done. And I just thought it was a really good opportunity for us to practice. So if you would notice here my chart of signs again. Notice they are painfully familiar to the chart that we did yesterday. Again, it's a positive divided by a positive equals a positive. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. Or similarly, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then two negatives, of course, will go positive. So I'm just going to do one example for you of this because we worked many yesterday and you practiced a lot with your homework. But just to show you again, a positive divided by a positive is always going to be a positive. And then if we have a negative divided by a positive, of course that's going to be negative. And then a negative divided by a negative is positive. Okay, like I said, we did a lot of these examples yesterday, so I'm just going to let that one go and move on to the next, evaluating expressions again. So let's do x times y divided by 2, where x equals -4 and y equals -3. Remember, when we evaluate, we're going to make the replacement. Wherever I see an x, I'm going to put -4, and I'm going to put that in parentheses. And wherever I see a y, I'm going to put a -3, also in parentheses. And then I'm going to evaluate this top part where there are multiple terms before I do my final division. And remember, when I have a negative times a negative, I get a positive. So the top simply becomes 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Again, we worked with that a lot. Hopefully this is pretty familiar. You're getting more comfortable with it. And I'm just going to move on to our big crescendo of the section, which is story problems. And specifically story problems about calculating degree days using this beautiful formula, which perhaps looks a little intimidating, but I promise it's actually utilizing several things we have already learned. It is evaluating expressions. It is operations with integers and absolute value. So there were just so many reasons why I wanted to put this in. The problems are also going to give you an h value, and for my first purpose, I'm going to make h equal to 35 and L equal to -5. And H stood for the high for the day and L the low. The first thing that we're going to do is make a replacement. We are solving for D. So in the end, I'm going to get something that looks like D equals something. Okay, so I'm going to make a replacement. And where I see my H, I'm going to put in 35. And where I see an L, I'm going to put -5. So everything else is going to stay the same. I'm going to put 35 in there. And keep everything else the same. Now, I'm going to evaluate this numerator. As a rule in mathematics, we work inside out. So I'm going to start with this numerator expression. Again, everything else stays the same. But now I'm going to take 35, I'm going to add -5. And remember on our number line that when we added a negative, we moved left. So 35 plus a -5 gives me 30 divided by 2. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do that division. 30 divided by 2 is 15. And now I'm going to do my final subtraction, which is just regular subtraction. Course subtraction on the number line moves left. And I'm going to get the absolute value of 50. Now the absolute value takes the positive of any number, but in this case it was already positive. So my degree day for this problem is 50. Alright, I'm going to do one more example like this for you using the same formula, just to try to make sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. 65 minus h plus L over 2. And in this second case, I'm going to let h equal 20 and L equal -30. Okay, so for my first step, I'm going to make my replacements. D equals 65 minus 20 plus -30 all over 2. Now I'm going to start on this inside, this top bracket here. Keep everything else the same. And 20 plus a -30. You start at 20 on the number line. And I'm adding a negative, so I'm moving left. 20 is going to take me to 0. And 10 more is going to take me to -10. So 20 plus a -30 is -10. We'll divide that by 2. So keep everything the same. Now I have -10 divided by 2. And we just learned that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So that's going to give me a -5. Now we have a situation like we had a couple of days ago. I have 2 negatives. Remember what we said about 2 negatives together. When I am trying to add or subtract 2 negatives together, they negate each other and become positive. So I'm going to rewrite this expression as 65 plus 5, which is going to give me the absolute value of 70. And again, it's already positive. So 70 is my answer. Alright, at this point, I want you guys, again, like always, go slow through your notes, read the section and all of the examples, and begin your assignment.